So this question came through, John. I'll give everyone a bit of a snapshot with the lay of the land. I've kept it anonymous. She actually said if you use any of this on the show, keep it anonymous. So we'll call her Megan.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the details are pretty much the same. I will change the location as well, which it really doesn't matter. Age 30, female from Melbourne. Income is 86 after tax, which, you know, Megan's on a probably north of 100 salary at age 30, so that's awesome. And here is what she said in her own words, because I always like to ask people, in your own words, how can I help? Hello, I'm living in Melbourne and just turned 30, and unfortunately my mum has recently passed away. All assets were left to my father, but he's going to pass on her super to me to supercharge and secure my financial future, effectively. The super fund has about $850K, and it'll be sitting in a pension account for the next 12 months while we figure out how to invest it more effectively. I don't have any children or own a home. Any advice would be much appreciated. I asked, are there any other relevant details? No debt, no kids, 2 dogs, and a boyfriend. The boyfriend, I don't know if he's living with her, but he's 29, recently completed a trade on about $60K. And some other information, she's got about 23 grand in cash savings. She can save about $1,000 a month. She got 40K in her super and a share portfolio with about 4K, and she's invested through the Sharesies app and platform about 18 months ago. No other properties. So that's the situation. How are you plucking this chicken, John?
Yeah, I think the good thing.
And condolences for losing mum.
Absolutely, first and foremost. That's never a great situation to be in, and it's I suppose a positive. It's eventuated out of a horrible negative. The next 12 months is stress-free in terms of the money sitting there in that pension account, isn't it? So it does give her a good time to give her time to be able to decide what the best next steps are, because often people might rush into spending this money quickly. So that's the first part of it that needs to be noted. It's like a lot of, I suppose, 30-year-olds, or not even age-based. It's really, okay, we're finding our way in life where we've got a savings plan, we're building up some super. Now what's our next steps? Is it ETFs? Is it property? Is it putting more money into super? What is it that we want in the financial part of our life? And obviously being a property guy, I'm saying,
here we go. Look out. Where's the break glass for property emergency?
Does Megan want to stay in Melbourne for the next 5 to 10 years? Because if we know it's rigid, so we don't want to go and buy something and live in it if we're not necessarily going to be there for the next 10 years maybe. So having a think about how important that is in her life, and what it means to live in your own home for security, boyfriend aside or not. It's just a thing that people like to tick off. So it doesn't seem as though it's on the agenda. She hasn't mentioned it, but she looks like she's an open book. So that would be probably the first thing that I would look at is, can we use some of it as a deposit on a property that we might want to live in Melbourne, if that's going to be our long-term view and an aim of ours to own a property that we want to live in one day. It's essentially tax-free money that's landed in her lap that she's got the ability to use. Now, that doesn't mean, right, it all goes into property and that's all, because she's then got the ability to keep some in an offset account, flush some through to ETFs, some into super, and do what she wants with it. So have that flexibility. So it's I would think you'd be looking at some sort of balance that says maybe we have a few buckets in our life that some of it's property, some of it's shares, some of it's super. What do you think?
I think there's one big thing that we 100% need to consider here. Whenever we look at people saying, hey, mum and dad can give me money, or we've got an inheritance that landed in dad's lap, mum sadly passed away, he said I can have some of it and all that. So what I want everyone to do, and the thing I like about this situation is we're not doing anything for 12 months.
Yeah.
And I recently did an episode on the Retire Right podcast, and I think it was called How to Really F Up Your Money. And it was a story, a real life story about money going between a parent and a child and all the implications. And if you do it the wrong way, you can't unscramble that egg. A couple of things with this situation, and I have forwarded her to see a financial advisor and get some advice.
Yeah.
That 850 in pension phase, and because we don't know the details, and that's why you need a financial advisor. When you have a pension account, it's still within superannuation. It's just got a tax-free structure. The pension account may have a reversionary pension. So if the person dies, their monthly or weekly pension that was going to the spouse, when that person dies, if it has a reversionary beneficiary set up, it automatically just goes to the spouse's name,
Right.
and they receive the money. So assuming that, we need to have a look at some broader implications. Now, I'm also assuming that the father is financially okay.
Yes.
Effectively saying to his daughter, and it sounds like it could be an only child situation, I'm going to be fine. You have 850 of mum's super and potential life insurance while you put that on mute, Johnny. And so the implications are, number one, we need to work out because what's actually happening in this situation, the comments are, mum sadly passed away. Dad said I can have 850 of her super.
Yeah.
What's happening in the real world in black and white, the death is after the fact. Dad's got a superannuation pension now with 850K in it. He wants to gift 850 grand to his daughter. That's what I'm looking at. So we need to make sure whether there are any taxes that need to be paid. Because if you've got a normal super account and you are over the age of 18 as a child, the money paid to you directly on the death of someone, there's a tax portion. But the complexity here is it's technically now in the dad's name. So the money should, in theory, go in. The dad can cash out this whole pension into his bank account, 850. Then he can choose to gift 850 away.
Yep.
Now, the implications that may arise is if the dad is on some type of pension from the age pension or whatever, and he wants to give away $850,000, Centrelink will deem that as an asset because you can only do $30,000 over 5 years. Or if he isn't on age pension and he's going to go on the pension in 2 or 3 years, Centrelink look back 5 years.
Right. So we're not assessing that this 850 is actually 850, or
I think it could be 850 if it is flowing the way I think with the money. It's potentially a reversionary pension in the dad's name. Once you're over, and we just don't know the dad's name, like I will assume he's over 60 or over 65 and stopped working or whatever the reversionary, and I'm just not in the game enough. I know conceptually, but I'm assuming that the money can be withdrawn from the pension account 100% tax-free into the dad's bank account.
Yeah.
So the question is, the dad giving away 850 grand, is it going to cook his situation over the next 5 years?
Yeah. I understood this to have got to the stage where that's already sorted.
No, because she literally said, I'll be sitting in a pension access account for the next 12 months. So the fact that they said it will be sitting in a pension access account
Yeah.
means it's probably still just sitting there in pension phase.
Yeah, I know, but in terms of having the conversations as to who pays tax and how it affects Centrelink and all these other things, I'm presuming that that's already been discussed.
No,
but
because she said recently passed away. And
yeah, okay. So it's still real early days then.
But that's just a bit of a background. When you're a financial advisor and you see these things, you've got to actually go back and cascade it down to be like, okay, so the money's technically in the dad's super pension now, if it's a reversionary pension. How do we get that out? If we cash it out, we assume there'll be no tax, but we need to check. And then we go, okay, dad's now got an $850,000 asset. If he gave $850 away, is it going to cook him later if in the next 5 years he needs age pension?
Yeah.
So we will now proceed assuming that, as you said, the $850 has landed in her bank account, for example, because you can't just transfer money sitting in a pension account to someone else's super. Like it's got to be, pension's got to make the payment, commute the pension, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, a couple of things here, and we've got to look between the lines, but he's going to pass it on to me to supercharge my financial security for the future. When I see, and this is just total reading between the lines, right? When I see the word boyfriend or girlfriend, sometimes that can mean not a long-term relationship. When I see the word partner, but again, it just depends. Like I talked to my 18-year-old cousin once, 17 even. Oh yeah, my partner. I was like, your partner, give me a break. You just finished high school. It's your boyfriend. So
yeah. So you can put long-term in front of that. It means a little bit
so
more.
I'm assuming old mate, maybe they haven't been together for 10 years. They might have been. But I think what we need to do in these discussions is just really make sure that Megan, not her real name, is protected, because if things went south and they'd been living together for 18 months and freaking old mate bro got a sniff of there's, a ton sitting there, I want some of it. We just need to kind of do those things. And I dare say in this relationship and in this era, there's like 50% of people will end in divorce once they get married.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. I'm 100% in this day and age, if you are rocking up at age 30 with we'll call it $1 million, all right? $850, couple of years, it's going to grow $1 million. Literally few grand prenup, don't care. It's mum's inheritance, effectively. We need to protect it.
Yeah, and don't tell too many people that you've got it.
No, I've got a story for you in the after party. Okay. I'm going to write after party.
All right, so just on that point, how would someone in that situation go about protecting that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, a binding financial agreement, aka prenup.
Yep.
We would do that. Another way that you could do it, which, nothing's ever guaranteed in this life, but you just want to have some protections in place. So if things do go sour, there is some protection.
Does a will help in that?
It does, but what I'm kind of thinking, if we cut to the chase and get to the nuts and bolts in this, I'm pretty much saying it's given to you to supercharge your financial future. There is the trade-off with, if we bought an $850,000 house with cash, that will supercharge your financial future, because guess what? For as long as you're on this planet, you won't have a mortgage repayment.
But you're cash poor.
Not necessarily, because you lump sum cash poor, but $1,000 a week that was going to a mortgage or $800 a week, you can put that to invest for the future.
Yeah, correct. But what I'm saying is you're leaving yourself no buffers and everything else. Like,
yeah, and you'd really want to make sure that, as you said, you want to live in this place.
Yeah, she's what's she saving? $1,000 a month, isn't she? So got a good savings plan by the sounds of it already, which is fantastic. 23 in cash savings now, which you just call a buffer.
Yeah, emergency fund.
And Yeah, but even so, like if you might just as an exercise go and talk to a mortgage broker and say, well, hypothetically, how much could I lend on today's salary? Just me.
Yeah.
If that's 400,000, you could then say, well, okay, I could portion, I don't know, 300,000 of this 850 towards that property and buy something at 650 or 700 and live in it, pay no stamp duty. I don't know. Depends on where she wants to live and whatever. But you're just carving it up in a way that's actually going to suit Megan and not suit anyone else out there.
Yeah. So I honestly think there's probably 4 options and maybe a blend of some. Mm-hmm. The first one, buy the house with cash. On the proviso that we pick a nominal amount, $750, $800 a week, normal rent for equivalent, and we then go, we're going to now salary sacrifice that into super each week.
Yeah.
So you're building your financial future that way. The other thing I'd probably say is I think there's no point, in my opinion, going to buy an investment property with the whole amount. If you did want to buy an investment property, we're putting a deposit down, maybe 20%, carve off, 160 grand of that as a deposit for the investment property, and not because we want
Not
to make
paying cash.
sure that if we do want to buy a house to live in, we don't have to borrow more money that's non-tax deductible.
Agree.
The other option is potentially to invest it all into shares and ETFs in your own name. Okay? But what we need to look at first, the house decision needs to be worked out before you do any of these options, I believe, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then the next option would be, and you're not going to get it all in, but put a big chunk of it into super. So she's only at so we're recording this in March. I think this comes out first week of April. You would put 100 and, what's the non-concession? I've just had a mind blank. Is it non-concessional 130 now? NCC super cap. 120, sorry. Yeah, just had so what you can do, you could put 120 after-tax contribution into her super now, and then in 1st of July, you can bring forward 3 years first. So 3 years. So then she could put another 360 into super. So she could put 480 into super. Done. Financial future taken care of. Put the rest into a house deposit, pay a bit of a mortgage, all's good with the world. But I'm kind of thinking that I would want her to look at potentially, if it is, I want to live in Melbourne for the next few years. I want to buy a house to live in. I'm probably even buying worst house, best suburb type vibe because, and this is why I love these conversations, John, because you've got that $850 to spend on a house. 30's still young.
Very young.
As I'm telling myself. Not that I'm 30.
You got
the
a
whole
tree in
thing
front of
is
it.
we've got a bit of an opportunity here to make a strategic decision to say, yes, we want to live in Melbourne and own the house we live in. Let's try and buy something with that investor hat on as well, because usually we're just buying and it's a lifestyle decision. But because we've got the capital, can we buy something a bit dodgy in a good place and then over the years we maybe renovate it? I don't know.
Yeah, so I think what comes to mind when you're talking about that is their risk profile.
Yeah.
It's like 30, never bought a house before, don't know what the appetite for risk is, but yeah, definitely can think about those things. And there's probably a 1A to your one of buying your own home is...
I just want to jump in.
Yeah.
She's got 2 dogs. She's going to want a house for the yard.
Well, this coincides with my 1A.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sort of, is to say, well, okay, buy your own home, first homeowner concessions, like maybe a stamp duty potentially.
What's that in Melbourne or Victoria, like 657 or something?
I think it's 7 now.
Yeah. So you're saying try and scrape in under that.
Not use it as I must do this,
No.
but definitely like a concession, like an option for someone. And Dad, no doubt, is probably, would be still reeling from the loss.
Everyone would be, yeah.
Am I staying at home? I'm presuming that she's maybe staying at home.
Do
you reckon she's out?
I think they're both. Like, she's on $100,000 a year and 30. We're not living at home at that age, are we?
Oh, well, I hope my kids aren't, but they well and truly could be. Like it's.
I'm assuming they're both renting.
Okay.
Because they can only save They can only save $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Where's the money going? If you're getting good rent, anyway.
Did they say they're living together?
No, but I've made that assumption.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, it's a 1A to say, can I move back home for a period of time post qualifying if I qualify. If I don't, then I can rent it out or I can rent rooms out. So there's sort of hybrid versions of that home. But yeah, I agree. The ability to go and buy in a good quality suburb with the ability to add value later on is huge, which will, when we're talking supercharging, that's a supercharged version in the property space.
And I think, because I'm trying to think with my statement there, I made that statement and I'm trying to think, did I contradict myself based on other statements I've made in the past?
Happens often.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. When you are buying a house to live in, it is primarily a lifestyle choice, which might not be the best choice if you were buying an investment property, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to buy a house, live in it, I'm enjoying it long term.
Yeah.
I think the carve out, it is different because it's potentially a cash purchase. So you're really not going to be paying interest on the debt. So can you buy something in a more premium place that is a bit of a older, renovated delight and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And because you don't have a mortgage payment, that $1,000 a week of mortgage that you may have paid, you can start to save up and cash flow and renovate that. That's kind of, I don't think I'm contradicting myself.
No, you're not.
All the bros on YouTube will tell me I am, which is fine, but it's just an interesting thing. And the other thing I would say as well, if I'm still okay with, we want to buy a house with cash, okay, I think this would be really important. Let's ask Dad, hey Dad, what would your expectations be of this gift? It's mum super. Is your expectation that I put as much into my super as possible, and we can put, what did I say, 600 grand or whatever?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, I forget. We can put a chunk into super. I can't put it all into super, Dad. I do want to buy a house. If I did buy a house, it would be in my name. We'll be spending $2,000 on a binding, non-binding financial agreement so I think bring Dad on the journey. And this is it, like, sure, drop $200,000 in the super, drop 150 in, use some, and you'll be able to, with an advisor or yourself, look at the outstanding concessional contributions, so you can put some money in and claim it on tax. So you do that first, then any more you would do as a post-tax contribution. And then, okay, so sweet, we've got 600,000. Okay, we still want to buy a house. All right, well, let's get a little mortgage, $200,000 mortgage. That's okay. We're investing that money into super. Still okay to do that. The thing that's not okay, also do what you want, but the thing that isn't okay is if you said, I want to buy shares with this money, 100% shares, ETFs in my own name, I'll buy a house later on. You need to work out the house situation first, because if you had $850,000 and put in a share portfolio, a year later wanted to buy a house and have a $700,000 mortgage, that debt is non-deductible. But if you bought the $800,000 house and then still wanted to buy shares, the debt's going to be there. Then you would get a second mortgage split on that house and use the borrowed money to invest. So you've got a gearing strategy.
Yeah. And I think I personally wouldn't, unless I've got a spending addiction, I wouldn't be going and paying cash for my property and just leaving myself thin on funds.
Why?
I
You can, why?
Well, because if you want it, it's coming back out as equity.
That's right.
So why not keep a good portion of it? When I want to say good portion, like a third. Just up your sleeve in an offset account. I've got a spending plan going on. I'm not going to touch it. It's sitting there doing its job against my small mortgage. And if I choose to go and buy and put some money into ETFs, so I can do that. I can pivot left or right. And I think the big word with all of this is I've got to have choice, and I don't want to be backed into a corner where I can't get out of.
Yeah, so effectively, I think we both agree that it's just more of a structural thing. And yeah, absolutely.
And she's got 12 months to find out what that structural thing, because she's going to have, and that's the thing about telling too many people, you're going to have a lot of opinions going on.
There's two here that have probably missed the mark because we don't know all the situation. But the whole thing is we agree on the same thing. I'm just saying if you're not sure in the future, just buy a house with cash, get on with your life. Later on, if you want to get a mortgage, do that. But if you say put 20% down, put the rest in the offset, either scenario, we're not paying interest.
No, that's the key. Like just some quick numbers in Vic, like 700, probably max 750. The stamp duty after that gets nasty. So if you're going to spend, 750 is pretty nasty actually, but 700 is a bit more palatable. So if you're going to spend more than that, that's when you just wouldn't worry about the first home and I think.
Yeah, and maybe can you get a premium piece of crap, quote unquote, for 700 and then reno it with 150?
Yeah, and that's the whole risk profile thing is am I comfortable spending 700 in the first place? I'm 30 and I've just woken up with 850 grand. Like it's a big life-changing event.
And this is the thing online, which I said it in the Facebook the other day. I've said it to someone. It's totally okay if your financial goal and risk profile and all that is to not do anything and pump the mortgage, clear the mortgage, be debt-free on your house. And that's why I really think this strategy, if it was, we just want to own the house, but because it's an inheritance, I need to make a commitment to mum and dad that the mortgage repayment of $700 a week or whatever it is, I'm going to salary sacrifice that into super.
Okay, so on the spot.
You don't have to gear up and invest. You can actually literally focus on paying the mortgage off. When the mortgage is paid off, then we will go and salary sacrifice to super for the next 30 years. Amen.
What would Glenn do now if he's sitting here with that money and no assets up his sleeve?
It'd be the house.
Would you buy it with cash?
Yep.
You would?
Yep.
Yeah.
One and done. Although the house I want around here is probably $2 million, but
I'd
end up with the mortgage.
So if you've got the knowledge you've got,
yeah,
but the position is Megan's.
Yeah, I'd honestly buy a house with cash.
Yeah, okay.